Hello, I'm Safi. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm here to do a little October wrap-up because it's currently the 31st of October. It's Halloween, hence my beautiful bat dress. I love it so much. I will use every occasion I can to show it off. And today was the perfect day to do so. I want to talk about the books I've read in October and then mention some of my reading plans for November. I'm not going to go too much in detail. I'm not going to go into any of these synopses because I already talk about them in my vlogs and I don't want to repeat myself. For most of them, I will just quickly say my rating. I read 18 books in October. I just finished my last one. I'm not going to get anything else read this month. So let's just get into it. So let's start with the books I liked the least, because we start with the negative and then end up on a positive note. So yeah, the book that I liked the least this month was Murder Road by Simone St. James. I don't own my copy anymore because I sold it the same day in which I finished reading it because I hated it that much. So I gave it 1.5 stars and I can't even remember why I gave it that extra 0.5 because it was terrible. It was a bad book, like objectively a bad book. I hated it. I hated my experience reading it. I read it in my Chills and Thrills vlog. If you want to see my more in-depth thoughts about it, go check that out. The second worst book I read this month, which I actually have not included in any vlog, I don't think. I didn't even talk about it because it took me a while to read it and I just did not want to mention it. Because it wasn't really doing anything for me, and that's Off Season by Jack Ketchum. I don't think, at least, I've talked about it, but yeah, it's a book which I picked it up because it supposedly had cannibals, and I didn't like it. I usually like books about cannibals and cannibalism. It's one of my buzzwords, one of my favorite topics to read about, but that one I did not like. I felt like it was actually kind of sexist, a lot, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. I might try other books by Jack Ketchum in the future, maybe The Girl Next Door, although I'm not sure how to feel about a book that mixes a true crime case with fiction. Anyways, I might try that in the future, but I did not like Off Season, unfortunately. The third worst book that I read this month was The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I think I also sold that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've also already sold that one because I sell the books I don't enjoy. I don't see the point in keeping them. But yeah, that one was a big disappointment for me. I really thought I was going to enjoy it. And then I thought the beginning was very slow. The middle was all right. It picked up the pace a little bit and it kept me entertained. And then the ending was such a letdown. I hated that ending. I gave it 2 stars. And I mean, it could have been like a 4 or even a 4.5 if it wasn't for that ending. That was just one of the absolute biggest disappointments so far this year. So those are the 3 worst books that I've read this month. Going up to the 3 stars, I read Summer Suns by Lee Mandelo, which I also had probably way too high expectations for because I really loved The Woods All Black by him. So I was like, I want to read everything else he's written, right? As you do. And I picked up Summer Suns and it was just a 3 star. It was just okay. I did not love that book, unfortunately. It had a bit too much action, although the atmosphere was there, but I didn't love the action. And I didn't love the love interest either. So moving on, I have a couple of 3.5 stars. And the first one is actually another book by Lee Mandelo, which I finished yesterday, called Feed Them Silence. This is a short sci-fi, it's a novella. It wasn't really horror, like there wasn't really much horror in it. It was mostly just sci-fi. I gave it 3.5. It didn't really do much for me. Unfortunately, it was honestly kind of forgettable. It was about some scientific project in which they like entered the minds of wolves. Yeah. It was just fine. So 3.5. And the other 3.5 this month is Compound Fracture. Yeah, this one was also just okay. I did not love it. I've loved other books by this author before. I liked Hell Followed With Us, and I absolutely adored The Spirit Bears Its Teeth, but this one didn't work for me. I preferred his other two books. That was a bit of a letdown, but I think this plot was just too different from what I usually enjoy. There was too much action. It was over the top. It felt kind of unbelievable. Yeah, I unfortunately didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I still gave it a 3.5, which is kind of like okay books for me. 3.5 is just books that are just okay, but kind of forgettable. Next, I have a couple of 4 stars. The first one being a novella called This Is Where We Talk Things Out by Marceau. And I don't own a physical copy of this one either. I read it on my Kindle. I actually did not vlog reading this book because it was a very quick read, which I read between vlogs, I think. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. I thought it was a very interesting exploration of a toxic mother-daughter relationship. And it's also horror, and it's set at a very isolated setting during a snowstorm, like at a cabin in the middle of the woods during a snowstorm with this mother that is extremely toxic and her daughter. I tend to enjoy books about toxic mother-daughter relationships. So I also gave 4 stars to A Sorceress Comes to Call by Kingfisher, which is also about a mother-daughter relationship that is extremely toxic, just as toxic as the one in This Is Where We Talk Things Out. So yeah, this book was also 4 star. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favorite Kingfisher. Actually, maybe I think that I wrote down 4 stars for this, but maybe it's actually a bit more of a 3.75. So yeah, not my favorite Kingfisher, but I loved the way that this relationship was depicted. I just didn't love the setting, and the plot also didn't really do it for me. The strongest point of this book was definitely the characters. This also had some horror elements. It's mainly fantasy, but with a touch of horror, which is a combination that I honestly really enjoy. So yeah, I'd recommend this for sure if you enjoy fantasy or horror books about toxic relationships and with excellent characters and a little bit of humor. Next, I have a 4.25 stars, which is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona, which was a surprise. I did not expect to love it, mostly because I haven't been loving thrillers notoriously this year. This is definitely one of the books that is best enjoyed if you go in knowing nothing about it, like I did. And I was surprised by it, and I really loved it. So I definitely recommend it. I have a few books this month that I gave 4.5 stars to, which some of them were really unexpected. Let's start from Graveyard Shift by Emil Rio, because I had heard pretty bad things about this book, and it also has a very low rating on Goodreads. So I was extremely surprised in a positive way when I loved this as much as I did. And I mean, it has mushrooms and it has like a mystery. It has a graveyard setting, at least in the first part. And I mean, I really enjoyed the story. I have not read If We Were Villains by the same author, so maybe that's why I have enjoyed this as much as I did. It seems like everyone who is a big fan of If We Were Villains hated this or was disappointed by this. So maybe it's a good thing that I haven't read it yet, but I definitely want to now that I've read this one. This could be classified as some kind of sci-fi horror in the end. But yeah, it's mostly vibes, really. This book is mostly vibes. And I love that. And I loved the characters. The characters plus the setting plus the mushrooms made this a 4.5. It seems like I forgot a 4-star. So this is The Night Guest by Hildur Knútsdóttir, and it's a 4-star for me. I really enjoyed it. This was a strange book and I had a great time reading it. It was a very quick read and I could recommend it if you're not triggered by animal cruelty and animal death, and if you enjoy open endings. This definitely had a very open ending, maybe a bit too much. I usually enjoy open endings, but this was a lot. But yeah, I had a great time with this. Check out my horror novella vlog, which is actually coming out later this month, where I review these horror novellas. So this Graveyard Shift and the next one I'm going to talk about a bit more in detail. Guillotine by Delilah Dawson was 4.5 stars. I read this also for this horror novella vlog that's coming probably in either next week or in a couple of weeks. We'll see. This was great. I'm not going to say anything else so I don't spoil my thoughts, but just so you know, I really enjoyed it. This had a lot more gore than I was expecting and I loved it. So yeah, another book that I gave 4.5 stars and that I actually just finished like half an hour ago is She Came for Blood by Darva Green. And this is a sapphic vampire romance, which I read on my Kindle and it was great. I thought the beginning was a bit slow and maybe it could have been shorter because this is a bit on the longer side for a romance. It's close to 400 pages, I think. It's like 370, 380 pages. So it took me a while to get through it, but the last part was great. I did think that some of the things went down a bit too easily, but I don't know, I just really loved it. And the relationship dynamic between the two girls in this book was just perfect. This is what I want from romance books. And yeah, I just really loved it. I will talk more about this book also in my horror novella vlog, although it's not a horror novella. I just really enjoyed it and I would recommend it if you're looking for a sapphic romantic book with quite a bit of spice. Then I did a vlog in which I reread some of my favorite books, which I've already talked about to exhaustion. I've already talked about all of these books, so I'm not even going to pull them down from the shelves, but I reread House of Hollow, Our Share of Night, and Pet Sematary, and I love them. I actually gave House of Hollow a 4.75 instead of a 5-star this time around, because I definitely did see some flaws with the novel that I didn't really maybe pay too much attention to before, but I still really loved it, especially that ending. It's like one of my all-time favorite endings for a book. So, especially for being YA, it really goes there. And then, of course, Our Share of Night and Pet Sematary, they are perfect books for me. I adore them. Especially, of course, Our Share of Night, it's my favorite book. And it definitely confirmed itself for being that once more. I adore that book and I will reread it again in the future, probably many times. Even though it is a chunker, it's very thick. And I don't even care, the pages just fly by. I love that book with my whole heart and soul. So I'll stop rambling about them because I've already talked about them so much. So let's just move on to my favorite books of the month that weren't rereads. And those would be Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. I love this so much. I gave this 5 stars. This was excellent. I would definitely recommend this to all who are looking for some fun, original, queer horror with deeper meaning. Like, this book truly has it all. I didn't even mind that it was set in Hollywood. I normally don't love books set in Hollywood, but this is just so good. It felt a bit like, let's see, a mix. If you took like the Three-Body Problem, which is not what you would expect looking at this, but yeah. There were a lot of things that reminded me of the Three-Body Problem, and mixed it with a little bit maybe Dirty Heads by Aaron Dries, and maybe some Chandler Morrison. Not Dead Inside, but maybe like Thigh Gap by Chandler Morrison, because they do have that kind of glamour vibe, Hollywood type setting. Or even Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis. I think you could get something very close to this. I can't recommend this book enough. I love Chuck Tingle. My favorite book of the month was A Sunny Place for Shady People by Mariana Enriquez. Of course, I love her. I adored this short story collection. It was so spooky, so macabre, so just everything I love from her writing was in this. I just can't explain how much her stories resonate with me. She actually manages to write extremely spooky settings in so short a story. Like, some of her stories just stick with you, whether you want it or not. I would definitely recommend reading this, and it's made me want to reread The Dangers of Smoking in Bed and Things We Lost in the Fire by her, because I read those quite a while ago. I read those years ago. The Dangers of Smoking in Bed was my first one, and then I read Things We Lost in the Fire, which I enjoyed more than The Dangers of Smoking in Bed. But yeah, I really want to reread them because I don't think I truly appreciated them the first time around. Now that I know her writing style a bit more and that I'm a bit more used to it, I think I would give them a higher rating. So yeah, but this was my favorite book of October. Of course, those are without counting my rereads, because otherwise Our Share of Night would win over everything, but I'm not going to count them, not even in my top 10 of the year. Otherwise, every year that would be the first book. That's it for the wrap up. Now, let's get into my reading plans for November. There is mainly 2 bigger vlogs that I want to make in November. And those are, one is reading, of course, the horror nominees for the Goodreads Choice Awards, which are coming in November, and I can't wait. I am literally so excited for them. I have made some predictions. I'm gonna keep them to myself for now, at least most of them, but just want to mention a couple of books that I'm going to be reading for sure, because they will be nominated. You'll Like It Darker by Stephen King is going to be nominated like 100%. So I can say with absolute certainty that this is going to get read in November. I hope it doesn't win. I mean, I haven't read it yet, so it might be like actually really, really good, but Stephen King just wins every single time he is nominated, or not every single time, but most of the time when Stephen King has a book out for the Goodreads Choice Awards, he's the one that wins. And I think it's just unfair to other authors. And I just hope that they also get a chance, you know? So yeah, I'm gonna read this. I can't wait. I mean, I love Stephen King. I've been wanting to read this for so long, but I've kept it specifically for the Goodreads Choice Award vlog. Here are 2 other books that I'm probably going to be reading for that vlog as well. My Darling Dreadful Stink by Johanna Van Veen and So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. They will probably get nominated. I mean, they are extremely popular horror books. So these are definitely 2 books that I'm looking forward to reading in November, and then a couple of books that I don't own a physical copy of, but that will probably get nominated and that I still am looking forward to reading are Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman, although as I've mentioned in a previous vlog, that book is so difficult to get hold of here. Like, I don't understand why there's no Norwegian bookstores that have it. Nothing, not even online. Like, it's impossible to get hold of a physical copy of that book here unless I get it on Amazon and get it shipped from the US. Like, that's insane. For an author that's so popular, like, I get it for a lot of the authors that I read that are maybe like more niche, like extreme horror authors, or a lot of the horror that isn't traditionally published is very difficult to get hold of. But that book is by Josh Malerman. Like, it's so popular. Why isn't it available here? I don't get it. I really, truly do not understand. And it's also not available on Audible for me. It's available on Audible in the US, but not here. Like, why? It's so frustrating, but I will somehow get hold of it. It's for sure going to be nominated, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to get a hold of it and actually read it. I don't know if it's even available on the Kindle. Like, it's that difficult, but we'll see. Another one is Indian Burial Ground by Nick Medina. I've also really been wanting to read that, but I think it's going to be nominated. If it is, I will read it. I know that one is available on Kindle. So those are some of the books that I'm planning on reading for the Goodreads Choice Award vlog, which might be a bit of a longer one because it's a lot of books. So if I can, I really want to read all 20 that are nominated. I've already probably read a bunch of them. So of course I'm not going to read 20 books in a vlog, but all of those that I haven't read of the 20 that are nominated, I would like to get to. We'll see if I actually manage that. And there is a couple more that I'm planning on reading for other vlogs. Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. And I wasn't going to read this. Like, I am not a huge fan of dark romance, but I'm going to be reading this because it's a buddy read with a friend. He's already read it and annotated it, and I'm going to read this and annotate it too, and like then give it back to him so that he can read my thoughts on it, and it's going to be fun. We've already done this with The Woods All Black by Lee Mandelo earlier this year, and it was one of the most fun experiences, like fun reading experiences that I've had this year. So yeah, I can't wait. Like, even though I'm not looking forward to the book itself, because also, by the way, he did not like it. But yeah, this is going to be fun, if anything. I'm also going to be reading the Book of Ezrael. I know it seems kind of random. I don't read that much fantasy, but I have to read it because me and my best friend have a challenge. We gave each other 3 books at the beginning of the year, and we challenged each other to, well, obviously read them by the end of the year. So she's already read all 3 of the books that I'd given to her, and I have only read one of hers. And one of the other 2 that I still have to read is the Book of Ezrael, which is one of her all-time favorite books. So since she is actually coming here in just a few days, she lives in Italy, by the way, and if you don't know, I live in Norway. So we live on opposite sides of the continent, but she's coming here in just a couple of days. I am so excited, and we're gonna take a little trip together to Stockholm. So yeah, that's going to be so exciting, and I'm planning on reading one of her favorite books while I'm with her, because we will be on a train for many hours. We will be taking the train from Oslo to Stockholm, and that's a lot of hours. So I already have the book downloaded on my Kindle, and I have the audiobook downloaded from Audible, and I am ready to go. I am so excited about it, even though I don't love fantasy books like that. Like, romantasy is not really my genre. I do read some of it sometimes, especially if it's gay, but this time I will make an exception for her because I know she loves the book so much, and I've heard that it also has some spooky elements. So yeah, I think it will be great. I mean, especially because I'll be there and I will be able to share my thoughts as I'm reading the book in real time, in person. So that's going to be so exciting. And I'm also so excited for the Stockholm trip. So yeah, I'm going to obviously be vlogging that and sharing that with y'all. And lastly, the two books that I am planning on reading, for the Literally Dead book club, which is Books and Lala's book club, if you didn't know. But it's going to be An Academy for Liars, I think, by Alexis Henderson. And I'm waiting for my Evernight special edition to arrive for it. I can't wait to see it. I haven't seen any spoilers on how it's going to look, so I am extremely excited for it. So yeah, I will be reading that in November as well, possibly more towards the end of the month. And then for Kayla's buzzword readathon, I have actually two options. The buzzword, by the way, is the word only in the title. This is one of the options. I know it doesn't technically have the word only in the title, which is kind of the point, but this is a short story collection, and one of the stories in here has the word only in the title. Yeah, there is one story in here called Only Corpses Stay. This could be an option for what to read for that prompt. And the other option is, if I don't have time to get to another whole book in November, since it's already going to be a very full month, the other option is this one short story by Josh Mellerman that I found completely randomly while I was looking for something else on Everend. I saw it's available as audiobook. It's like 20 minutes long, so perfect. I do not remember the title because it was such a long title, but I remember that it had the word only in it. I'll put it on the screen if I remember. But yeah, that's the last book that I'm planning on reading in November. So that's all of my reading plans. I only have 2 vlogs planned, but I think that they will both be pretty long, especially the Goodreads Choice Awards vlog. So yeah, I'm going to have to figure things out with them. And yeah, so those are all of my wrap-up thoughts and reading plans for November. If you've gotten to this point of the video, I appreciate you. And please let me know what your favorite book of October was. I am really, really curious. As always, I want to know, what have you been reading? What was your best and your worst books of October? Let me know in the comments. Maybe leave a like and subscribe. And I guess I will see you in my next video. Bye!